There are a lot of common terms in dating, such as red flags and green flags. And I'm here to tell you that I think there's a lot more nuance than that. Be careful how much emphasis you put on red flags and how much emphasis you put on green flags, because nothing is an isolated variable. It's all a concoction of probably more variables than we can count. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to actually sort through these things and why you might want to avoid putting too much weight on both red flags and green flags, but especially red flags. As you're getting to know a woman and as a woman is getting to know you, there is constant assessment going on. That's just how human minds work. It's not that you're being vain or shallow or critiquing someone too much. It's just in order to get to know someone, we have to take certain risks. And those risks mean that we invest our time and sometimes our money, definitely our attention, into discovering who they are. Now, as we sweep away these niceties, basically how someone is presenting themselves, we start to understand who they truly are. And then as we discover these things, because we're humans, we love to categorize things. We like to put it into black or white, green flags and red flags, pros and cons, all of these types of things. And they're separated by a clear, distinct line. Guess what? Like everything else in life, it's a gradient. It's a gray scale. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's so many different stages that get white to black that's in the middle. And depending on your painting, you might want something that's in the middle versus a solid color. I like to say certain things are non-negotiable. So instead of investing your time on green flags and red flags, think about what are things that you personally just can't really accept. For a few examples, health is such an important thing to me. So as much as I might like a woman's personality or how we get along, how I feel around her, if she doesn't see the merit in investing in her health like I do, that's a non-negotiable for me, because I want someone who's going to share in that part of my lifestyle. Now, on a different side of things, if I love weightlifting and this woman I'm seeing isn't much of a weightlifter, maybe she's more of a Peloton or a Pilates girl, that's fine. She's still investing in her health in a way that she enjoys. I don't want to conform her to weightlifting. I want her to intrinsically love something that's in that same category. So your non-negotiable could be, I want a girl that lifts. Okay, if it's that important to you, that's great. If you're a pro bodybuilder and you want a bodybuilder girlfriend and you want to work out every day together, that's great. But be realistic with yourself. What are the things that are truly non-negotiable? And then what are the things that are important that she has her own version of? For another example, and this is going to be super polarized, is politics. I've found that in general, you can have some really good conversations with people who don't agree with you on those things. It's just difficult because everyone is so tense about it. So you, as the man, need to lead and diffuse the tension. And this is not just true of politics, this is true of anything. But if you are a very conservative man and you meet a girl who's great and she has some liberal beliefs, just think about it. How many beliefs have you had that have been exactly the same your entire life? I'm sure there's a few, but most things evolve as we experience things and we meet people and we actually get a taste for life. We start to have a different view on things. Now, again, there could be non-negotiables under this umbrella, but when you first meet someone, if you think they're a good person, or I really like this, I feel drawn to them, and the only thing is a red flag that has to do with a different political preference, you should probably take the time to understand why that they believe that. And this goes into another principle, which is ask questions and be open-minded, be empathetic enough to put yourself in their shoes. As you discover why they believe what they believe, you're going to find out if you feel really good about this person, you enjoy spending time with this person, you probably agree on more than you disagree. And that's true of most people when it comes to any polarizing issue that you can come up with. They tend to demonize people who don't agree with them. It's back to this whole black and white. Oh, if I'm on this team and you're not on my team, you must be the enemy. But it's actually a gray scale. Every time that you think there's a red flag, become curious. Every time you think that you should throw in the towel, challenge yourself. Is this me manning up to do the hard thing, which is uncovering the why behind the why? Or is this me running away from a potentially challenging situation? In my opinion, real men don't run from challenges. They face them head on. Now there's a caveat here, just like everything, there's so much nuance. You don't want to settle And if you're able to figure out the why behind the why, and it is related to a non-negotiable of yours, then you have to have that conversation. You can't simply be so open-minded and whimsical that anything that you don't agree with, you just accept. I think a lot of times we jump to conclusions way too quickly. And I know that I have been a perpetrator of that many times. And every time that I do it, it comes back to bite me in the ass. The same thing in a different way can be said of green flags. Just because they have a lot of green flags, a lot of things that you really love, doesn't mean that that's the right person for you. In fact, most of the time, the guys that I work with find that the women who challenge them in the appropriate way are the women that they're drawn to the most. So if you see eye to eye in everything, they're basically you have no differences in the Venn diagram, there's complete overlap, so you're gonna be bored and you're also not gonna grow. There's this concept in the book I'm writing called 1 + 1 = 4. This insinuates that when you get two people together, they grow exponentially as opposed to just simple addition, 1 + 1 = 2. Now, 1 + 1 = 2 is not a bad thing, but if a woman has all these green flags and there's nothing that you have to chew on, there's nothing that she challenges you with, so 1 + 1 = 2. And that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to reach your utmost potential, if you want to have your beliefs challenged, if you want to evolve into the man that you want to be, you're gonna have to have a woman in your life that you don't agree on everything. And you're signing up for a long-term challenge. You know, there's no way to sugarcoat that. But I think in life, the things that seem super simple and seem too good to be true are often that. Too many green flags? I'm not saying you should be skeptical of her. Just think about, is there enough potential for growth? So what is the perfect balance between red flags and green flags? I don't think there is one. And in a way, you can kind of forget everything I've already said before and just listen to this. If you're being open to discover why someone believes something, that's really the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter how many green or red flags they have. As men, a lot of times we spend our time here, rationalizing things, trying to sort through things, categorize things, defining things. Sometimes we even look for problems when we don't need to, or sometimes we glaze over problems when we should pay attention to them. As you get to know someone and these flags pop up, I would start to travel from here to here. When you get into your gut and your instinct, that's how you know any flag is something that's a deal breaker or something that you should look to discover the why behind the why on. I have ignored my intuition and it has always been really tough. It's always caused me a lot of pain. I'll give you two quick examples. One, I ignored my intuition in a long-term relationship and I ignored it for a whole year. Finally, I said, hey, what's going on? I've been having this gut feeling. Found out the person I'd been seeing for multiple years that I had my life intertwined with was having a secret relationship for a whole year. I knew it somewhere deep down, but I ignored that. Example two, I was on a date with a girl and I was just doing my best to pull her out of her shell. And I don't mind that, that's not a red flag. But in my gut, she was being weird and not a normal weird way. Not like a normal nervous, something was off. Come to find out later, her ex-boyfriend picked her up and they got into, ye old knocking boots that night. So needless to say, I didn't see her after that. But I kind of knew it in the middle of the day because I was feeling it here. Thinking with our head, our big head, it's okay to use the logic, but just make sure you cross-reference that with your intuition and you audit everything with your heart. Again, sounds super cliche, but our heart is what makes sure that we're not being selfish, we're not being arrogant, we're not being presumptuous. Our heart makes sure that we're genuinely looking for the why behind the why, that we are respecting our boundaries and not folding on the things that are important to us, like our non-negotiables, but we are still being empathetic enough to discover what we need to know about this other person. Ultimately, all we're trying to do is assess, can we be happy with this person and will they be happy with us? So green flags, red flags, you can use whatever terminology you want. Simply make sure you're having honest conversations with yourself and with the woman and you'll be just fine.